Something was wrong the moment Ethan saw the purse, wrong enough to change his life forever. But before we dive into the mystery that pulled him into a world of danger and secrets, if you enjoy stories like this, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It helps us grow and bring you even more gripping narratives. Now settle in, because this journey starts with a simple evening walk. The November breeze slid through the narrow streets of Crescent Falls, carrying the smell of rain and cold metal. Ethan Ward tightened his grip on the leash as his chocolate spaniel, Piper, pulled ahead with the enthusiasm of a creature determined to chase every scent in existence. At 36, Ethan had finally gotten used to the quiet. Remote UI work, evening walks, weekends that never surprised him. After the divorce 2 years ago, predictability felt safe. But tonight, the air had an edge he couldn't name. Piper suddenly darted off the main trail and disappeared behind a wall of tangled shrubs near the Riverside Greenway. Ethan muttered under his breath, pushing branches aside. "Piper, come on, don't make this a thing." But Piper stood stiff, tail lowered, staring at something half buried in the damp leaves. Ethan knelt and brushed the dirt away. A torn blue purse. He opened it slowly. Inside, keys, a compact mirror, and a driver's license. Myra Flores, 29. A small photo was tucked behind the card, Myra holding a smiling little boy with missing front teeth. Ethan felt the air leave his lungs. That's when Piper barked again, sharp, urgent, and sprinted down a narrow footpath. Ethan chased after her, flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The trail spilled into an abandoned clearing. At the far edge stood a decaying cabin, boards warped, windows shattered, roof sagging. Piper crouched low, staring at the half-open door. "Fantastic," Ethan muttered. "Exactly what I wanted, horror movie vibes." He nudged the door. It groaned open. Inside, dust drifted like ash. On the floor lay a crimson scarf, an overturned tote bag, and near the wall, a dark smear that made Ethan's stomach twist. Before he could move, footsteps sounded outside. Heavy, approaching. Piper exploded into frantic barking. 2 men blocked the entrance. One tall and shaved-headed in a bomber jacket, the other shorter, hands tucked into a hoodie. "What are you doing here?" the tall one asked, voice low and dangerous. I'm just walking my dog." "You shouldn't have seen this," the shorter one said. "Forget you were ever here." Ethan squeezed Piper to his chest and slipped past them before they reacted. He ran until the cabin vanished behind the trees. Back on the main path, chest heaving, he dialed 911. In minutes, patrol lights glowed through the darkness. Officer Nina Park and Detective Samuel Ruiz examined the purse and the scene inside the cabin. "You did the right thing," Detective Ruiz said. "If anything else comes to mind, call me." That night, unable to calm his racing thoughts, Ethan searched Myra Flores Crescent Falls. The headline chilled him. "Local teacher missing since Sunday night. Police request public assistance." Piper rested her head on his knee, sensing his unease. "You feel it too, girl. This isn't just a lost purse." Ethan didn't know it yet, but he had already stepped across the line into a mystery that wouldn't let him go. And someone out there had already noticed him. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the night hadn't ended when he left the cabin. It had only begun. The next morning, Piper paced anxiously near the door as if sensing he wasn't done with whatever they had accidentally stepped into. Ethan sat at his small kitchen table, scrolling through article after article. Myra Flores had vanished without a trace. She hadn't shown up for work at Crescent Falls Elementary. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her colleagues described her as warm, reliable, the kind of teacher who stayed late helping kids who struggled. She wasn't the type to disappear. One detail stuck out. Her sister, Elena, had posted a desperate message online begging for any information. Ethan exhaled. "All right, girl, we can't just sit around." He typed and deleted a message several times before finally sending it. "Hi, Elena. I think I found something of your sister's last night. Can we talk?" The reply came within minutes. "Yes, please, I can meet anytime. Cafe Harborlight at 2 p.m., Ethan agreed. The day crawled by. He tried working, but his focus was shot. Every time he blinked, he saw the red scarf on the floor of that cabin, or the two men blocking his way out. At 2 p.m. sharp, he entered Harborlight Cafe, tucked along the waterfront. It smelled of roasted coffee and ocean air. Elena Flores sat at a corner table, her dark hair tied in a loose braid, her eyes red-rimmed from sleepless nights. "You're Ethan," she said, standing to greet him. "Thank you for reaching out." Piper stayed at his side, tail wagging softly. Ethan sat. "I found Myra's purse last night in Riverside Greenway. I called the police, but I thought you should know too." Elena clasped her hands tightly, knuckles white. "Did you see anything else? Anyone around?" Ethan hesitated. Should he tell her about the two men? They had threatened him, but hiding it felt wrong. "There were two guys near the cabin," he said finally. "One tall, bald. Another shorter, wearing a hoodie. They didn't want me there." Elena's face fell. "God, Myra mentioned something strange last week. She said someone was watching her apartment. A blue sedan parked across the street for hours. She thought she was imagining it. Did she have any conflicts at work? Anyone who might want to hurt her?" Elena swallowed hard. "There was one parent, Adrian Cole. His son was in her class. He blamed Myra for everything. Grades, behavior, whatever went wrong in his life. He sent angry emails, threats even. The school reported him, but nothing came of it." Ethan wrote the name down. "You think he might be involved?" "I don't know, but Myra was scared. Last Friday, she said, 'If anything weird happens, promise me you'll tell the police about Adrian.' I thought she was just stressed." Ethan's stomach tightened. This wasn't random. Someone had been targeting Myra long before she disappeared. Piper nudged his leg and sniffed Elena's bag. Elena managed a weak smile. "She's sweet. Myra loved dogs. She always wanted one." Ethan looked at her. "I'm not giving up on finding her." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. You're the only person who's actually doing something." When their meeting ended and Ethan stepped outside, the air felt heavier. Dark clouds rolled over Crescent Falls, swallowing the late afternoon sun. Piper pressed close to his leg, alert. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered cautiously. "Hello," a low voice replied, cold as steel. "Stop looking for her." Ethan froze. "Who is this?" "You don't want to find Myra Flores. Walk away." "Last warning." The line went dead. Piper growled softly, ears pinned back. Ethan stood in the wind, pulse pounding. It wasn't just about Myra anymore. Someone out there knew his name, knew his number, knew he wasn't backing down. And now they were watching. The rest of the afternoon dragged like a weight behind Ethan. The threatening call replayed in his mind over and over, each time colder, sharper. Piper sensed his tension and stayed glued to his side, her steps matching his as he walked home along the windy harbor line. Inside the apartment, he locked the door, shut the blinds, then paced. Someone had his number. Someone wanted him silent. But the only thing that accomplished was solidifying his decision. He wasn't stepping away. Ethan scribbled everything he knew onto a notepad. Myra Flores, purse in the park, abandoned cabin, two men, Adrian Cole, blue sedan, threatening call. Then he added a final line, find her before they move her. Piper barked once as if agreeing. Just before sunset, Detective Ruiz called. "Mr. Ward, we're reviewing the cabin you reported. No fingerprints yet, but we did find shoe impressions, 2 adult males. Your description matches a few individuals we've dealt with." "So these guys aren't random hikers then?" Ruiz sighed. "Far from it. But listen, I need to ask something. Did you tell anyone else about what you saw? Ethan hesitated. I met with Myra's sister, and she mentioned a man, Adrian Cole, angry parent. History of threats. There was a pause long enough that Ethan pictured Ruiz rubbing his temples. That name again. We questioned him yesterday. He claims he hasn't contacted Myra in weeks, says he was home Sunday night. We're checking it, but so far nothing contradicts him. Ethan frowned. Could he be lying? Could be, Ruiz said. But right now we need solid evidence. After the call ended, Ethan grabbed Piper's leash. Let's check the park again, he said. Something feels unfinished. They reached Riverside Greenway just after the street lamps flickered on. The trees rustled under the cold wind, and the trails were nearly empty. Piper dragged him toward the side path again, toward the cabin. But Ethan didn't want to go inside. Not tonight. Instead, he walked around the perimeter, scanning the ground. That's when Piper froze. She sniffed the air, whined, then darted toward the bushes near the old maintenance shed. Ethan followed, flashlight cutting through the dark. Piper pawed at something half hidden in the dirt, small, metallic. Ethan crouched. A phone. Cracked screen, mud around the edges, but unmistakably feminine. A rose gold case. His chest tightened. Myra, he carefully picked it up. The battery was dead, but this was no coincidence. Someone had dropped it or discarded it in a hurry. He slipped it into a bag to avoid smudging any prints. I need to take this to Ruiz, he whispered. But before he could stand, headlights flashed across the path. A car rolled slowly past the trail entrance. Blue sedan. Windows tinted so dark he couldn't see inside. Ethan ducked instinctively, pulling Piper close. The car paused just for a second, watching, searching, confirming. Then it drove off. His pulse thundered. They're still here. They're still watching. He waited several minutes before moving. Then he jogged home, double-locking the door again. Within minutes, he was calling Detective Ruiz. I found Myra's phone, Ethan said, voice low, near the maintenance shed at Riverside Greenway, and Ruiz, that blue sedan everyone mentioned. I just saw it. The detective's tone sharpened instantly. Stay inside. I'll send a unit to pick up the phone. When Ethan hung up, Piper whimpered softly. He knelt and stroked her ears. I know, girl, he whispered. It's getting dangerous. But deep down, he wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid he might already be too late. Detective Ruiz arrived sooner than Ethan expected. A patrol car idled at the curb while Ruiz climbed the stairs in plain clothes. Piper stood beside Ethan. You found it exactly where? Ruiz asked, snapping on gloves as Ethan handed him the sealed bag with Myra's phone. Near the maintenance shed at Riverside Greenway, half buried. Piper scented it. Ruiz gave the dog a brief nod. We'll check prints and shut down time. If someone killed it on purpose, we might see it. There's more, Ethan said. I saw that blue sedan again. It slowed near the trail while I was there. Ruiz's expression darkened. Same car's been reported outside Myra's building. No plates. If they show up again, you call me first. Clear. After Ruiz left, Ethan slid the deadbolt. Piper nudged his leg. He crouched and hugged her. I'm not letting anything happen to you, he whispered. Or to her. He didn't sleep. At his desk, the monitor lit a mess of notes. Myra's name in the center, lines to cabin, 2 men, blue sedan, Adrian Cole, unknown number. It looked less like a plan and more like a trap. Around 3 in the morning, his phone buzzed. You really don't learn, do you? His pulse jumped. Ethan didn't reply. He screenshotted it and sent it to Ruiz. Another threat. By mid-morning, Elena called, voice almost gone. Ethan, they pulled some messages off Myra's phone. What did they say? An unlisted number told her they had information about a problem with one of her students and insisted she meet them Sunday night near the Greenway. Elena paused. She wrote, "This feels wrong. Is this really about school?" They answered, "If you care about your kids, you'll be there." They baited her with her students, Ethan said. She went because she thought a child needed her, Elena whispered. After they hung up, Ethan looked at Piper. We're going back to the park, he said. Riverside Greenway looked harmless under late morning sun, but the knot in his chest stayed. He walked the main path while Piper worked the edges. Near the trailhead, she stopped so abruptly the leash snapped taut. She sniffed the base of a maple tree, then scraped at the soil, whining. What is it, girl? Ethan knelt. Half hidden among roots lay something thin and metallic. He brushed away damp leaves. A silver bracelet engraved with 2 letters, M.F. Myra Flores. His breath caught. He slipped the bracelet into a plastic bag. Piper sniffed again and backed away. Fresh tire tracks cut across the mud toward a narrow service road behind the trees, grooves still sharp. Ethan pulled out his phone. Time to call Ruiz again, he muttered. Before he could dial, a voice came from behind him, calm, familiar. Well, the man said, you really are terrible at following directions. Ethan spun around. A figure stood among the trees, hands in his hoodie pocket, hood shadowing his face. Ethan didn't need to see more to recognize him. It was the voice from the phone. Piper's growl rolled low in her chest. You should have walked away, the man said, taking a step closer. Now it's going to get messy. The man in the hoodie took another step toward Ethan, moving with the calm confidence of someone who believed he already controlled the outcome. Piper barked sharply, tugging at the leash, her stance low and defensive. Ethan forced himself to keep his voice steady. I'm not looking for trouble. That's the problem, the man said. You already found it. He lunged. Ethan dodged instinctively, yanking Piper aside. The man's hand grazed his shoulder, cold and fast. Ethan stumbled backward, catching his balance on a tree trunk. Back off, Ethan shouted, grabbing a fistful of dirt and flinging it toward the attacker's face. It wasn't much, but it slowed him just enough for Ethan to sprint toward the main trail. Run, Piper. Go. The dog bolted beside him, paws pounding the forest floor. Ethan didn't dare look back, but he heard the rapid crunch of footsteps gaining. They burst out onto the wider path. 2 joggers appeared around the bend, headphones in, oblivious. Ethan waved frantically. Call the police. Now, the joggers startled, then fumbled for their phones. The man in the hoodie halted several yards away, hidden partially by the trees. Even from a distance, Ethan felt the weight of his glare. The man raised a hand as if acknowledging a point in a debate he'd already won. Next time, he called softly, you won't have an audience. Then he slipped into the woods, vanishing between the branches as if the forest swallowed him whole. Ethan stayed frozen until he was sure the man was gone. Piper pressed her head against his leg, trembling. He crouched beside her. You okay, girl? I'm okay. It was half true. Minutes later, police arrived, 2 cruisers, Ruiz in a vest, a pair of officers sweeping the woods with flashlights. After securing the area, Ruiz approached Ethan. Tell me everything. From the start. Ethan recounted the encounter, every detail he could remember. The voice, the sudden attack, the man's build, the cold calm in his tone. Ruiz listened closely, jaw tight. That was deliberate, Ruiz said. He wasn't trying to scare you this time. He was testing how fast you react. You think he'll try again? I think he's part of whatever happened to Myra, and he's nervous you're getting closer. They returned to the spot where Ethan found the bracelet. CSI officers dusted the metal and photographed the tire tracks. Piper sat obediently beside Ethan, though her tail remained tucked. Ruiz turned to him. This bracelet is huge. If it's Myra's, it places her here more recently than we thought. Ethan nodded, running a hand through his hair. She was moved. The cabin wasn't the final location. Exactly. Someone relocated her, probably by car. Ruiz pointed to the tire impressions. We'll plaster these and compare tread patterns. If they match known vehicles, especially that sedan, we might get a hit. A second officer approached Ruiz with a tablet. "Sir, we got something. A camera near the service road picked up a vehicle last night. Grainy, but the shape looks like a blue sedan." Ruiz looked at Ethan. "Told you you were onto something." Ethan didn't feel triumphant. He felt the opposite, like someone had placed a timer above his head, ticking louder. They walked back to the parking lot together. Ruiz rested a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Look, Ward, I know you want to help, but after today, you're officially in danger. I'm assigning a patrol car to your block for the next few days." Ethan wanted to protest, but the memory of the man's voice stopped him. "Thank you," he said quietly. One of the officers approached them again. "Detective, dispatch relayed a message. A warehouse supervisor on the East Docks called in about suspicious activity yesterday. Says he saw a man dragging something heavy toward a storage unit. The location isn't far from here." Ruiz narrowed his eyes. "That could be nothing or everything." He looked at Ethan. "You and that dog of yours have a talent for finding needles in haystacks," Ruiz said. "Feel like checking one more place with me?" Piper's ears perked up as if answering for him. Ethan swallowed hard. "Yeah," he said. "Let's go." The east docks of Crescent Falls looked abandoned even in daylight. Warehouse rows stretched along the river like hunched, rust-eaten giants. Ruiz parked beside a stack of shipping crates and stepped out, scanning the area. Ethan followed with Piper, who immediately lowered her nose to the ground. "Supervisor said the activity was near Storage Unit 12, Ruiz said. "Man dragging something heavy inside." The words made Ethan's stomach tighten. They approached the unit. The latch hung crooked as though forced. Ruiz signaled an officer who slid a pry bar under the metal loop. 3-2 now. The door screeched upward. Cold, stale air drifted out. Boxes were scattered inside and a tarp lay in a crumpled heap. Piper growled, a deep warning sound. Ruiz walked forward and lifted the tarp with the tip of his boot. A mannequin lay beneath it. Ethan exhaled sharply, relief and dread tangled together. The plastic frame was dressed in jeans and a hoodie smeared with dirt and makeup, a grotesque stand-in for a missing person. "A message," Ruiz muttered. "Someone planted this to waste our time." Ethan swallowed. "They're playing with us." Before Ruiz could answer, a clang echoed across the docks, metal hitting metal. Piper spun toward the sound, barking sharply. Ruiz lifted his gun. "Stay close." They followed the noise between two warehouse rows. The docks felt wrong, too quiet, too still. Another clang came from deeper inside the maze of crates. An officer crouched near a stack of pallets. "Fresh footprints, detective. Same tread pattern from the park." "He's here," Ethan whispered. Ruiz pointed to the SUV. "Ward, get back too," but Piper bolted before he could finish, darting down a narrow loading corridor. "Piper!" Ethan sprinted after her. They rounded the corner just in time to see a figure slipping behind a maintenance ladder. The man climbed fast, hands sure, movements familiar. The man from the woods, from the phone calls, from the threats. "It's him!" Ethan shouted. Backup officers poured in, but the man was already on the roof, disappearing behind a vent. Then Piper darted again, straight through an open maintenance door leading inside the warehouse itself. "I'm not leaving her," Ethan said. Ruiz cursed under his breath. "Fine, stay behind me." The maintenance corridor inside was dark and stale. Piper's barks echoed somewhere ahead, guiding them through a cluttered storage room and onto a wide factory floor filled with old pallets and dangling chains. Piper stood rigid near a small office door, growling. Ruiz raised his weapon and tested the handle. "Locked," he nodded to an officer. A single kick splintered the door. Inside, the room was almost empty. A flickering bulb cast long shadows across the floor, and there near the center lay a scrap of fabric, red, torn, fresh. Ethan felt his pulse spike. "Is that?" Not the same scarf from the cabin, Ruiz said, lifting it carefully. But it's recent. He was just here. Ethan stared at the empty corners of the room, imagining Myra being dragged from place to place like a ghost no one could catch. "They're moving her," he whispered. "Again." Ruiz's face tightened. "Which means she's still alive." Piper pressed close to Ethan's leg, tail low, trembling with leftover adrenaline. Ethan looked at Ruiz, voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. "Then we're not stopping." "Not now," Ruiz nodded once. "Good," he said, "because we may be down to hours." They left the warehouse with one clear fact. They knew who had taken Myra, and those men were running out of places to hide her. Back at the station, the task force room buzzed. Screens showed maps, traffic, and rental records. Piper lay under Ethan's chair. A tech pointed at a frozen frame. "Blue sedan from the park in the docks. Same car. Rented under a fake name, but the office camera caught this." On the screen, a man signed paperwork at a counter. "That's him," Ethan said. "The guy who attacked me." "Name on the form is Kyle Mercer," the tech said. "Facial recognition tags him as Connor Hale, hired muscle." Bank data appeared on another monitor. "Adrian Cole's been paying a shell consulting firm," Ruiz said. "Money goes out, lands with Hale. Parent with a grudge, thug on the payroll. We have names, we still need the place." "Hale's been seen in the rail district before," an officer added. "Old warehouses, easy to disappear there." Ruiz looked at Ethan, then at Piper. "If she catches Myra's scent again, we might beat them." Ethan nodded. "We're in." Soon after, they rolled into the rail district without lights or sirens. Cracked pavement, boarded windows, the distant clank of trains. Ruiz handed Ethan a vest. "Stay with the line," he said. "Piper leads, you follow." Ethan held Myra's bracelet inside its evidence bag. Piper sniffed, froze, then pulled forward hard. They moved between warehouse walls. Piper ignored the first two buildings, then cut toward a low brick one with a chained side door. She scratched at the threshold, whining. "She's got something," Ethan said. SWAT spread out. Bolt cutters snapped. The door opened on a narrow corridor that smelled of dust and oil. Piper pulled them to a steel door at the end and barked, sharp and frantic. The ram hit twice. The lock gave. Inside was a bare room with a single bulb and a rusted pipe along the wall. Chained to it, knees tucked in, was a woman with tangled hair and bruises on her face. Myra Flores. For a moment, Ethan couldn't move. "Crescent Falls Police," Ruiz said. "Myra, you're safe now." Her eyes shifted from him to Ethan and the spaniel at his side. "You found me," she whispered. Medics rushed in, cutting the chain and checking her. Piper slid low across the floor, tail giving one small wag. Myra's hand shook as she rested it on the dog's head. "Good girl," she murmured. Outside, sirens rose. An officer appeared in the doorway. "Two in custody near the tracks," he said. "Connor Hale and Adrian Cole." Ruiz nodded once. "Then this part's done." Days later, in a hospital room filled with light, Myra smiled when Ethan and Piper walked in. "They say you're joining the Volunteer 9 search unit," she said. "Yeah," Ethan replied. "Looks like Piper found her calling." Out the window, Crescent Falls looked calm, but Ethan knew better. People vanish. Someone has to go after them. He looks at you. "That's how it started," he says. "A walk with my dog." If you stayed to the end, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us make more stories like this. And tell me in the comments, do you want to hear more cases with Ethan and Piper?